Alright. Don't really feel like distracting myself any longer. May as well just start. Whoa. Yeah? Because I'm talking about women, I have to look really presentable now. Because otherwise they think, what a schmuck, right? And I don't want that. So, at least I want to give them a feeling, I'm not a complete asshole, because that's how many women are, right? If you confront them with some of the things that they are doing, and then you say that to them, and they say, what an asshole! What a complete dick you are! It's like, okay, if that's how you want to see me, right? I'm just telling you what I have picked up in this twisted and confused society. And I have some solutions for you that you may not want to hear, but then you'd probably, right, would have already stopped listening. So, by now it should already be somewhat obvious, right, who's talking to you. I mean, like my whole portfolio, my CV, yeah, is basically out there. If you still don't get who I am, then can't help you anymore. Can't help you anymore, right? So you have to help yourself. So today we're talking about distract me from my child, selfish mothers and pampered children. And there's a reason why I want to talk about this. And the reason is that I have seen and spoken with and lived with and been intimate with lots of women. Lots of women, yeah? And most of these women never wanted to hear anything out of my mouth, because they thought, I'm a woman and I know what's going on, I'm so perfect, I can do this and I can do that, and I always know what's going on, I see everything. That's the women that I've met, right? They always try to walk around like this, I'm really strong. Oh yeah, if you're so strong, why do you need all these men then? If you're so strong, what do you need all these things for? Why do you need makeup if you're so strong? Why do you need to hide yourself? Oh, because I like it. Oh, is that your reason? Oh, sorry. I don't want to give off the vibe that I really hate women or something, because I don't, At least not more than men. And I also don't love women more than men. Because, just like men, a lot of women are a real pain in the ass. There are very few people out there these days that know how to handle themselves. Men are assholes, women are assholes. And do you know how you know that? When they rub it into your face. I mean, you live together with a woman, and sometimes you cut your hair in your face, yeah? And what happens then? Yeah, you just let it there, because it's the woman's job to do that. Now okay, you have to feel a bit empathy for women, my friend, because women also are human beings. And why should a woman clean after your mess? Why should a woman clean away the hair that's coming out of your face? Why should she do that? Because it's a woman's job. Yeah? Do you know who takes care of other people? Social workers. Do you want your wife to be a social worker? Do you want your girlfriend to be a social worker. You know, it's like taking care of old people because they can't do it anymore. Because they were too lazy most of their life, and they never did any stretching, and they never did any workout, and they never did any reflection, and they never looked inside how they really felt. And now they're so numb that they can't even move anymore. So they have other people that wipe their asses for them. Do you want your woman to be like this? Do you want your woman to be somebody who has to clean after you because you're too stupid to clean yourself, and then you still want her to sleep with you and give you a real good blowjob, yeah? And dress in nice clothes for the man that she's cleaning after? It's a bit weird. I mean, now I'm really second thoughting the title of this episode, but the title of this episode distract me from my child. Because as much as mothers like their children, or love them, or want to love them, sometimes they need time for themselves. And now, right, maybe you've started watching this record, or you started tuning in on it because you thought, you know, I would have a real good pick on women and just say how shit women are, that they're super lazy, and you would sit here and listen to it and you would say, oh yeah, that's right, yeah, he's so right, you know, women are so lazy. Yeah? And why does that make you angry? Probably because you're lazy yourself. Because probably you hated that women don't clean away your shit because you're too lazy to do it, and you think, well, a good woman should do that, yeah? A good woman should take care of her man. No, a good woman should take care of herself and the children. And in addition, she probably has a man around that pays attention and that cares for her woman, cares for his woman, and the children, and that helps in the household, instead of sitting around on the couch because he thinks that's all he has to do, because that's the men that I meet. They're complete assholes. They don't know what to do. They don't want to take care of the children. I mean, I meet men. You know, the woman is already completely... She doesn't have anything to give anymore. And then the husband comes home from work and he sits down. Where's the food? Yeah. And sometimes, you know, we have these, you know, I'm just going to say it as it is, like family gatherings. Or we have all kinds of gatherings, you know, it doesn't have to be my family. You know, it could be somebody else's family. And then I go there. You know, at the moment I live alone, I don't have children, but I just see how it could be, or maybe even should be, and I see how it is. And then I see how a man is just sitting there eating his food, and the child is crying, and she just ignores that. And the woman is waiting because the woman has nothing to give anymore. And if you would pay attention, you would see that. And then you would go and take care of the child. But you don't do that. You just pretend like nothing is happening. And you just eat your food. And then the woman does it. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Because if you don't do it, she's gonna do it. But nobody can also force you. Because if she forces you, you're gonna get angry. I don't want to do it. Well, the reason you don't want to do it is probably because you're insecure. And you see, I really try to be angry as I used to be. It just doesn't work anymore. I really try to stand here and say something really bad about women. But to be honest, women do a lot of the weightlifting, the emotional weightlifting. You know, they take a lot of the blows from the man and all that kind of stuff. And all I see from men is that they just think all they have to do is throw their cock around and be assholes. That's what I see from men. Men have a lot of more energy but they just decide to keep it for themselves. And then you see how a mother just like pours herself into her children and even tries to do something for her man or something, and the man just does nothing. He just thinks it's enough to earn money. But it isn't, because the money doesn't bring home love. You know, that's what your wife is trying to do. And you think, I just have to earn money and wash the car, you know, and I'm just gonna go down to my tool shop, to the cellar, and I'm just gonna do my work. And I'll just leave her with the child. Don't you think a mother also wants some time off sometimes? Don't you think a mother wants to do the dishes every day? Because you're the one that makes them just as dirty as she is. You're probably even, right? You're probably eating even more than her. So why should it be always her that does the dishes? You can do the dishes as well. If you don't know how to do the laundry, then you ask her to show you, or you just look it up on the internet. Well, now we get to another problem, because there are some women who want to control the entire household. They don't want you to do the dishes. They don't even want you to do the laundry, because they're afraid you're gonna ruin it. And then there's even women that don't even want you to take care of the child. And why is that? And now we're coming to the topic of selfish women and pampered children. Because that's a very complicated thing. And, you know, I've been once with a woman that had a child. It wasn't my child, but I was with her for some time. And I realized something. I realized something in a lot of relationships with a lot of women. And what I realized is that I had the feeling that on some level these women really hated me. They thought I was just like a necessary thing that should be there to please them. You know, they wanted to have sex with me, but if we didn't have sex, you know, they found things that they could pick on me with. You're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. They never saw what I did. And I did my part. I did dishes, or I did this, or I did that, or, you know, maybe I told a story to take them, I don't know, right? You know, I do a lot of emotional weightlifting. But most women that I've been with, they just took me for granted. And they just acted like, you know, to them I was just a nuisance. And then came the point where I was with this woman that had a child, and I had the feeling, you know, I also wanted some of her attention and affection. But she only had that for the child. There was nothing for me. Nothing. And so I think what I needed to understand also is about that once you have children, a lot of the focus of the mother goes into the child. And that should be in your interest. So you as a man, you have to learn to take care of your own needs, but you also have to make sure that you don't get too selfish, because selfish men make selfish women. The feeling I have is that women, they like to give. Yeah, okay, no, you cannot generalize it. That's often the problem. Because you cannot say women in general like to give and men in general like to give. You know, it always depends. You know, there's women that like to give. And often these women, but they only like to give to certain people. So what I found was sometimes, you know, I was in a relationship, and while the woman was very cold with me, even though we were in a relationship, you know, she had all the love to give for other people. She had love to give for her parents, or for basically anyone, just not for me. You know, you see that a lot in couples. You know, they're angry with each other, and then other people come, and suddenly with these people, they're like, oh, super nice. which means they're just pretenders. They don't want others to see that you're struggling. And that's the point that I have, it's not just women that do this, it's also men, right? The title of the episode is just a teaser for people. I don't have to lie about that because it's just like it is. Because you have to understand how people think. People think they're really righteous. I'm in the right. I can do the laundry really well. And then they have this thought, man just can't do it. Well, I can do laundry really well. And I'm a man. I do my own laundry. Yeah. I also do the dishes. And I also take out dishes from the dishwasher. And I also bring out the trash. And people don't even have to tell me. I just do that. Because I want to contribute to social life. Right? I want to contribute. I want to do my bit. I want to play my part. And I don't want to sit around just being an asshole thinking, oh yeah, my work, earning money is super important. Yeah, I've seen men that were like this. That thought, I'm just gonna earn money because it's so super important and I'm just gonna sit behind the screen all day and earn money. Oh. And I know where that got them. Because it got them to women that had no interest in them anymore. Even their women, their wives. They just lost interest. Because what do you do with a man that never took the time to cuddle with you? Because he was afraid of closure. He was afraid to open up and to love, What do you do with such a man as a woman that wanted these things after 20 years of marriage? And suddenly the man starts to come out of his little cave and say, now I want to cuddle. Oh yeah? Well, now you have to work for it, my friend. Now you have to work for it. Because now you have to show me that you really want it. Because just because you want it now, doesn't mean that I have to. Because now I got used to it, that you are like this. I'm actually fine, thank you. But now you realized, oh damn it, if I don't cuddle with her, she doesn't sleep with me. Yeah. Could have realized that a bit earlier. Because until now, I just made it really easy for you to have sex. But at a certain point, that's just not gonna happen anymore. And now she has you by the balls, and you're just gonna do everything that she wants you to do, and then you're her toy, and then she's going to do with you what she wants, and that might put a grin on your face, but actually it's really terrible. Because if you're dependent on women, have you ever worked in a factory where there's a lot of women? It's terrible. The amount of gossip that goes on there, it's terrible. I've worked in a factory and there was a section where there was mostly men, and amongst the men it was like, I do my work, you do your work. And it was okay. And then you got to the section where the women were, and there was just only gossip. There was these really weird hierarchies. There was this, if you don't do what I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna go to the boss, and gossip about you and say how shit you are. It's this, I want to be the one that looks really good in front of the others. Of course, there's men that do that also, but for some reason, if there's just a lot of women together, that happens. But I also believe it happens with men as well. You cannot generalize it, but it was a bit weird that was like this. And I think one of the reasons why that is so, and I have lived through it myself, that often in families, when you have a son, the father is really rough with it. The son is like, you have to learn to be tough. Yeah, you have to learn to be tough. And then the sons are treated like real assholes, like everything they do is just, yeah, you're a real asshole. And then the women, you know, the girls, they're being treated like little princesses. Like, Yeah, it's not always like this. You know, you also get it the other way around. You know, but I'm always starting off from my own experience, and then I realize, oh, wait a minute. There's actually also families where it's the other way around, where the girl is treated like shit, and the son or the boy is treated like a little prince. So, you know, it depends, right? It always depends. Everything's relative, right? Everything is relative. And that means, wow. That means you can never generalize anything. The only thing you can do is you can look at the way it is with yourself. You know, what kind of concepts do you have in your mind? Do you secretly kind of hate boys and love girls? I, for instance, for a very long time, didn't like boys. And maybe it was because I had the feeling that I, as a boy, wasn't really liked much. You know, in school I was told if I don't start to pull myself together, you know, I'm gonna be sent to a school for special children. You know, they wanted to label me as a complete fuck up. As somebody who's completely stupid, you know, like... Yeah, and now just look at what somebody like this has created. It's incredible. You know, I just have to say that to myself because nobody tells me these things. I have to literally say to myself, good job, Christopher. Wow. You know, you've really done well. Because nobody does that. Nobody says you've done well. Ever. Because when you're a child, what do they expect from you? You have to be, you know, if you don't earn money, you have nothing to say here. You have no rights because you don't earn money. Yeah, so you first have to grow up and earn money, and when you earn money, then you can say something. Yeah? But only to the people who are underneath you. You know, everybody on top, you have to shut up. So yeah, I mean, we're talking about pampered children and all that kind of stuff, and selfish mothers. Who's selfish? I mean, right, if you protect your own needs and you say no to certain people, or let's say you go to school and you have food and you eat that yourself, some people say you're selfish. Now, if you don't want to spend time with others because you rather spend your time alone because other people always give you shit for everything, then they say, he's very selfish. And only selfish people say that. Because only if you're selfish, you also think other people are selfish. And that's that's projection. Because if you would be more empathic and understanding, you would understand why that person spends time alone. You would maybe even ask them, hey, is everything all right? Yeah, everything's all right. Okay. So, I don't really know where that comes from. But what I know is everything is relative. So sometimes I see mothers and their husbands are so closed off because they're so afraid to open up to love that their relationship, their romance, their love is pretty much stagnant. There's nothing happening. Which means they don't have sex, they don't really engage with each other. The husband comes home and what does he do? Or the boyfriend or whatever. I don't think you should ever be in a relationship where you consider each other boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, there's people who are 40 and who say boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, if you are in a relationship, you should commit to it 100%. Otherwise, don't have the relationship, man or woman. Don't just take these things casually. You either want love with somebody else or you're gonna get it on your own. Because it is possible to be happy on your own. You don't have to be in a relationship, but if you are, then be in the relationship 100%. Then you have to say, all right, I'm with a woman, we're gonna have children. Because we want love to grow in this society, but so we first have to learn to love ourselves, then we learn to love each other, and then, we're gonna have a family. So it's like a stepwise, transitional thing. Most people, they hate themselves, and so they love others and want others to love them, and that means you're gonna be in a relationship, and if your partner doesn't show you love today, because your partner doesn't have any, you're gonna feel shit. Because you think, if I don't get love, then that must mean, she hates me, or he hates me. A much better way is, wow, I feel good today. Today, I love life. Oh, nice. Wow. Yeah, and then you walk around and then you see, oh, there's my husband. He looks so sad today. What's going on? Yeah, this and that and blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. Maybe you should go for a walk now. Instead of going there and then hugging him and sleeping with him because you look so sorry and sad, you should push your husband. That's the problem, right? A lot of husbands, they don't want to be pushed. They just want to sit at home and work. So are you going to be the one that always pushes the husband? Or are you going to be the one that says, I give up on you, I don't care anymore, I've tried saying something, you don't want to listen. Sometimes you have to really break through to someone. And that means you also have to understand them a little, because now you're in a relationship, right? You want to spend time with each other. You want this thing that you wanted when you wanted it. But when you had it, it was too difficult that you couldn't figure it out anymore. Well, then figure it out, man. This is your family now. People take relationships so casually these days. It's like, oh yeah, no, I don't want you anymore. Goodbye. It's terrible. Because that's how we all feel. At one point, you just don't want anything anymore. You don't want to be with any woman anymore because you just say, fuck it. What's the point? It seems like I can't be with a woman and women can't be with me. Because I'm too much for them, or I'm too little, or, I don't really know. My calves are too big, or it's like really strange. So I'm glad I already have someone. And I'm glad that we are working towards each other from the distance, because we realized, or we had to accept, that right now it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Simply because we had so much weight, each of us, to carry, that if we would have brought that into like a real close relationship and had children, these children would have been traumatized for life. Because all they would have gotten from us is the impression that relationships are a real hack job. And now we have the chance to work on our own trauma in our own time and learn to be patient and figure out what we like as individuals, and to learn what fills us up specifically as a man and a woman. And that means then when we come together, it's like a very tight embrace. I'm just saying how it is, right? Because that's how it feels. That's all I can say to you, right? Whether that's real or not is very irrelevant, because when you listen to me say that, it sounds like that's something worth having. So I don't need you to believe whether I have that or not, because I feel that I already have it. I'm in the middle of it. And it's a real shit show, I can tell you that. Because I have to deal with all the shit that comes up. Emotion, 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 and there's no end to it. It just keeps coming. But if it keeps coming, all you have to do is maintain the flow. Keep channeling it. And that's then how you continue to love, by just letting it flow. The problem that I often have is an emotion comes up, and instead of just channeling it without thinking about it into some kind of artwork, I want to know what kind of emotion that was. I want to look at it. I want to see it. I want to understand it. And I want to say, aha, that was that emotion. And then I've labeled it. It's for me a way to hold on to it. It's a much better way if I would just channel it and just see it, instead of seeing it as all these emotions, to just see it as energy. Because emotions are raw energy. And if you have a lot of energy, you may want to fight with your partner. You know what you could do instead? Learn how to crochet. Clean the whole apartment. I don't know. I'm saying that to men and women as well. And now the question arises, why did I label or name or title this episode or recording or this session or this lecture? Why did I say it's called Distract Me from My Child, and then Selfish Women and Pampered Children? So there is a way, in a way, there's a bit of a problem. Now, something I've picked up a lot with couples that have children is that, they get together, they say they love each other, and then they get married or something, and then they have children. And once the child is there, the woman has no time for the man anymore, and the man doesn't know how to deal with that. So the man kind of shrinks into some kind of, I'm just a second-rate thing. And then the man gets the feeling, the only thing I have to do is actually, she only wants me because I bring in the money, and she only wanted me to have a child. That's the impression a lot of men get from their women. I don't really know why that is. Because probably the woman is very insecure as well. And she thinks that the man doesn't spend time with me anymore because he doesn't desire me anymore. Because women or children, I don't want to say women and men, but children in general, in this kind of weird world, they are being used to make adults feel better. Right? They're being treated like shit. They're always being pushed around. What else? Well, they're being treated like shit and they're being pushed around. And when a child has a negative emotion and throws a tantrum, people say, "Rrr." They get angry at the child. And when adults want to have a laugh, they go to a child and tickle it, and then the child laughs, and then the parent goes away. It's a bit like masturbation. And then I see mothers, how they engage with their children, and they treat their child a bit like a husband or something. They just want that the child is all the time laughing and smiling, so that they have the feeling they're doing a good job as a mother. But your job as a mother is not only to take care of your child. So if you need your child to smile and laugh all the time, then you're pushing a lot of responsibility for your happiness onto the child. Because if the child doesn't smile and do like this, you think something's wrong because you live in a world of fear. And you are used to, getting things from the outside. Because people came, you were a little girl or a little boy, and then people came and they showered you with attention because, a child, and, oh, so nice how they play. Yeah, because the people that did that, they were all unhappy. They had no real love in their lives, so you as a child were something they could feed on. You know, they were feeding on your happiness. And now you're doing the same. You know, I just see that, how mothers just like, you know, they like tickle their children. Yeah, and then the child's like, ah ha ha ha. Yeah, and then the mother is like, ah ha 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 ha. That's how people are these days. They just walk around and like, ah ha ha ha, ah ha ha ha, ah ha ha. And when the child is crying, they're like, my child is crying. Oh no, what's happening? Why aren't you happy anymore? So the mother and even fathers, they're all dependent on the mood of the child. But a child has no stability. A child is left and right, like, hey, that's this. The butterfly landed on my nose. Oh, this is so nice. It's raining. You know, that's how children are. So if you're looking for your child to give you stability, as a parent, it's a bit pathetic, isn't it? Well, then you can say, oh, you have to understand, you know, that's because I was raised like this and everybody is like this. I just want to be a good mother. No. No. You don't want to be a good mother. You want to be a mother. You don't want to be a bad mother, and neither do you want to be a good mother. Because there is no bad mother and there is no good mother, but there's a mother. Because when you judge how you want to raise your child as good or bad, then you're going to run into all kinds of barriers and obstacles. Because maybe you want to raise your child to walk barefoot a lot. Maybe you want to homeschool your child. Well, there's probably then 90% of this, right, this place here is going to say, a bad mother. Your child needs shoes or else it will get sick. And then you say, yeah, but I believe that being barefoot will help the body of my child to develop in a much more healthy way than if it walks around in shoes and loses the ability to feel how to walk. Because that's what being barefoot gave me, the ability to feel how to walk. In South Africa, it's normal for children to walk barefoot. From a certain age on, they wear shoes. But at least, you know, their feet could develop properly. Now, I've seen children that when they walk barefoot, they were like this. And then you put on shoes and they were like, you know, it's like putting cement blocks on your feet. A child wants to walk properly, so that you learn how to balance yourself, that all your muscles and sinews and tendons, I mean, if you're barefoot, your toes stretch out like this and you learn to grab with them. I mean, you can really lift heavy objects with your feet. I mean, how many people do you know? Whoa, now I have to manage. That can do this. How many people do you know? First to balance on one leg, and then to take the keys, and then to throw the key and catch it with your hand. And can I do it with the other side as well? Oh wow, I can. What a blast. Well, I've trained this a lot, right? So some parents, they just want to put their children into some kind of bubble so that it can never injure itself. Yeah, and that just creates pussies and weaklings and little pampered assholes that get used to it that their mother is always around to tickle them like, ah. You know, I see these children and they're just, you know, if I'm engaging with a child and I go there and be like, da-dum, 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 oh yeah, oh yeah, oh, the child starts crying because it's a pussy. It's been pampered by women, you know, always soft and oh. I mean, if you hear about Canadian indigenous people, you know, I read once a story, I read a book from somebody who worked with the Wim Hof method. And he said that Canadian Indians used to place their child at times for 10 to 20 minutes into the snow and just left it lying there. Wim Hof went into the canal, the Grachten, in, I think it was in Amsterdam, and he went bathing with his child in winter. And all we do is we put children into these really warm clothes. I mean, sure, in the beginning it's probably important, but at a certain age, you don't have to pamper your children as much. Right? I mean, sometimes your child cries, let it cry. I mean, when I was with that woman that had a child, when her child was crying, the world stopped for her, and she was like, "Ah, my little baby, ah." You're not supposed to suffer with your child, because if your child manages to draw you into its suffering, then, like I said, you're basically a yo-yo, and your child is the finger that's moving it, or it's the string, or whatever. So, sure, mother and child are one, in a way. But a mother also has to learn to separate herself from her child and let it go in a certain way. And the best way to do that would be already to start young. That doesn't mean you just leave it. But a child also has to learn to depend on itself. If your child has a lot of fear, well, give your child the chance to work with that. If your child can always crawl under your blanket, it will just be raised as a pussy. I mean, a man that's used to crawling under the blanket of its parents will have trouble later to pull his or her own weight. You just have to know that. There's a certain age, you just have to teach your child certain things. And what these things are, I can't tell you this, because I haven't been in that position yet. I will have to figure that out in my own time. But I will observe, and then I will make certain choices. If I see that my child is really afraid, I will go more into nature with my child. Sure, there are some children who are really bold, and then there are some children who are really scared. But the problem often is people think if a child is bold, you can just treat it, like a punching bag. Yeah, it can take it. And some people think if a child is really scared, you always have to make sure that it doesn't, that it won't be scared, because I don't want that my child is afraid. I want to protect my child. Yeah, from what are you going to protect your child? Because you won't be around all the time. And if it's used to being protected by you, your child can never make his or her own experiences, because you never showed them how. So if your child is really insecure, then how do you give your child security? By showing your child how to live. But if you don't know how to live, it's a very hard thing to do. So if your child is very insecure, what do? You go out to nature. You go into the forest and you play there. You do things together. You grow as a family. Some people, they just let their children play alone all day and they never really engage with them. But who is your child going to learn from how to live if you're not showing them how to live? So it's important to also do things for yourself as a man and as a woman. And so selfish mothers and pampered children. So the feeling I have is that in some families, when there is like an emotional barrier between husband and wife and they can't open up, then the mother just uses the child to replace the husband. So she spends time with her child like, ah, yeah, and when her husband comes back home, there's just nothing left. Because, she just was talking all the day and like giggling and all that kind of stuff. And instead of properly cleaning the house, what does she do? I'm talking about women that are at home now. Yeah? I'm talking about women that are at home and men that are working. And then the man comes back home and it's a mess. There's no food. The woman doesn't really appreciate the man coming home. Somebody has to start. So think about it. How do you think they are doing it in Africa? Do you think when you're in a tribe, women are sitting around with their children doing like googie googie goo, googie googie goo? Do you think they do that? No, man, because these people are real people. These people don't sit around do googie googie goo. Yeah, they also don't do shuffle dancing. They also don't eat cake, right? No, they are self-centered beings that are in tune with nature, that know who they are because they've always felt it. They were born like this. They weren't used, in a village. Everybody has their job. You have to hold your own space, you have to take care of yourself, and you have to take care of the tribe, right? Everybody has certain proficiency and you just have to do the job. There's no real selfishness, but everybody's watching each other's back. And then you have a chief, and the chief holds up the energy and he stands there, and he gives stability to the people so that love can flourish. Mothers can feel secure with their children, and you've got men that are like this, strong, open hearts, a real image of a man. And the women, yeah, they spend time together, but do you think they sit around doing googie googie goo? No, they don't tickle their children. Yeah, their child is with them, and what do? Handwork, because there's work to be done. They peel nuts, beans, they have to prepare the food, they make baskets to carry the food, they make clothes. This kind of stuff. You have to clean, you have to do all kinds of things. Maybe they even make their own brooms, right? Then they gather and collect things. There is no time to sit around and do googie googie goo. So children, they grow up and they're more like an appendage, right? As long as the child needs help and nourishment from the mother, the child is always where the mother is. So they have these, how do you call that? Like a pouch, some women, they carry their child in front so that whenever the child wants, it can just get to the breast and suckle. So the child never has to go hungry and cry. Because every time it needs milk, it gets it. Because the child is always with the mother. Always. There's no separation. There's no, you have to sleep in your own bedroom now because you're 6 months old, and when you're crying, I'm going to let you cry. These children don't cry all day. They don't get from happy to cry and happy to cry. Now I get attention, now I don't get attention. That's how parents are with their children. And mostly, well, it's mothers that raise the children. And so it's mothers that are like this. Now I pay attention to you, now I don't. And then they don't carry their children around. Why? Because they're too weak to do so. Because their bodies are weak. Because they just sit around all day. They don't know how to move. Well, that's also the problem with having couches, with having chairs, with having these stupid tables. You've seen me how I was eating in the beginning. of this recording. You know, I eat in a squat on the ground. Why? Because it keeps my feet strong, my legs strong, and it stretches my hips so that the energy can flow much better. It's a natural resting position. Chairs make you weak, right? The chairs I have in this room are there so I can put clothes and stuff on top of it. I never sit on them. I squat and I stand and I lie down. And of course that takes practice. And you don't have to squat, you can also sometimes sit on your knees or something. You know, there's all kinds of ways you can do. And then if you don't know how to do crochet, then teach yourself. Start making clothes for your child. Start making hats, start making socks, start making cardigans or whatever. You don't have to buy these things. I mean, you're at home, you have time. So do something with that time. But also realize that it's going to take time. This is going to be hell for you, right? Because instead of looking at your phone, because the time you spend with your phone could be time that you could actually do something that has meaning. You can make blankets. You can make your own blankets. You can knit them, you can do scarves. You know, you can already do the clothes now that your child is going to wear in 1 year. You can do that already now. But that takes time to learn. So if you want to be a mother, why not start already now? You know, it's not just talking to women who already have children. It's also talking to women and men that still want to have children. So you have to prepare yourself. Learn how to make clothes now already. Because you want to prepare yourself to be a mother. So that when you are, you know how to deal with it. Because you have to have a lot of strength to hold yourself together and give stability to your child. And that means when you look at how they do it in Africa, you know, they have these, like a cloth, and you tie it together in front, and the child is sitting in that, you know, not directly after birth, but from maybe 6 months on, when it can hold its head properly, you tie it to your back. And that's where this child stays all the time. So it's always in direct contact with the mother, which means it never feels alone. So it never has to cry, so that somebody comes and, you know, has contact with it. Because we as humans, we need that, especially as a child. You know, when I get older, I can do this myself. But as a child, I can't do it. So when you are busy in the house, what do? You bind your child to you, and then you go and do the dishes. And then you go and clean. Then you go and crochet. You can do all these things with your child sitting on your back. And then you go walking, you know, you go outside, but you don't have to. You know, you can do what you want. I realized now, after a couple of weeks in this room, I realized I don't have to go out as much. I can do most of my stuff inside. Because outside world to me is sometimes way too hectic. And sometimes I just need to be alone. Because family, sometimes as a new mother, family, they're like vultures. You know, some parents, some grandparents are so terrible. As soon as the child is born, you know, they just want to be there and leech off its happiness. But the mother, it's the mother's job. You had your time with your children. Right? If you want a child now, get a dog. Or just learn to do crochet. Because why do you need to leech off on other people's children? It's my grandchild. Yeah, and? Move on. You've had your time as a mother. You leeched off on your children to a certain degree. Yeah? And now you're trying to do the same thing with your grandchildren. You never learn to fill yourself because you never spend the time to look at what do I need. And so, when you are already in a relationship and you already are parents and you realize that there's no love between you, it feels like, your entire job is just to bring up that child and your husband just gets the money, then change something for God's sake. First thing you should do, get rid of the TV. Get rid of all PlayStations. Get rid of all these things that you used to do when you had nothing else to do. But now you are parents. And that means you have to take this very serious. The time to fool around is over. Because your selfish days should be done by now. Now you should make sure that you're doing fine so that your child is doing fine. But if you're sitting at the dinner table and your child is crying, you don't give a crap. I mean, why does a child have to sit? Why does the child have to sit in these really weird chairs? That just ruins its back. It ruins the back of a child to sit in a chair next to the mother. The mother could have the child on her lap, or the father takes care of the child while the mother eats. And when the mother is done eating, then the mother takes care of the child and the father eats. You can just change these things. Why do I have to tell you that? Why can't you come up with these things yourself? If you realize, something isn't as it should be, because now you have to understand this twisted world that we live in. You are the child's family. There is no tribe. There is no tribe. You are the child's tribe. This is the kind of society that we grew up in. We are all separated, it's all secluded. There are all kinds of boundaries. I don't have people where I say, that's my tribe. I don't have that. If I want to be a parent, which I want to be and which I will be, then I will take care of my family because that's my tribe. I don't have 50 people to take care of. I only have one child and one woman, or maybe 2 children or 5 children and 1 woman. And that's as easy as you can get it as a man. You don't have to take care of a whole community of people. It's just 1 woman and a bunch of children. I mean, that's like manageable, isn't it? If you think about what a chief does, a chief has a wife, maybe even 2, and then he has children. No man that I know could deal with 2 women at once. He couldn't manage. Which means we are all weak. So we have to get strong again. And doing crochet takes a lot of strength, a lot of mental strength. But it's gonna teach you. If you've ever crocheted a hat or anything, you will realize how angry that can make you in between. But if you keep working, you learn to not give in to the anger, but you just keep going. So if your child is crying, and you also have to make food and all kinds of stuff, doing crochet can actually prepare you to remain stable, so that when your husband comes home, everything's ready. And he can come home and the house is clean and you feel good about it because you managed to take care of all of it, including yourself. And then your husband comes home, and if your husband is a real man that knows his place, he's gonna come home and he's gonna look, oh, is there something I can do? Maybe it was a little bit much for my wife today, who is the beautiful mother of my children. And I want that she's also happy. So he gets home, he cleans himself, and then he sees where he can help. He sees, can I help with food? Can I help with laundry? Can I bring out the trash? Right? Can I pick up, maybe toys of children, if there are any. I don't really think children need toys. You know, you can give a child like a piece of wood and that should be alright. You know, children don't need toys because it just turns them into materialists. Children also don't need snacks or chips or chocolate. They don't need any of that. Why do we feed it to them? No, I don't really get it. But, you know, that's just how it is. Why would we dress children, you know, like puppets, like dolls? You know, we put on like hats on top of them. The child doesn't give a shit what the child is wearing. The child wants to be dressed in clothes, you know, that it can do stuff with. So it can crawl into holes and it can jump into mud and do like, yeah, and then people dress their children in these really fancy clothes, and then they say, "Ah, you got the clothes dirty," and they're meant to get dirty. Like, don't dress your child into designer stuff. Don't put a cap onto your child's head. It's ridiculous, but that's, you know, that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with children that are sucked into smartphones. Your child shouldn't have a smartphone. You know, when your child is old enough, okay. But before that, don't give your child a smartphone. You don't know what they're gonna look at. Do you want to be responsible? Because you are responsible. Do you want to take responsibility for your child being mobbed and bullied through the phone? Do you want to control the phone all the time? Why do you think your child needs a phone? If your child wants a phone at the appropriate age, it can buy one, but there's no real reason for a phone. That, of course, brings me to homeschooling. I know I don't want to send my children to school. You know, I don't know what's really possible, but I'll find a way. But I know that schools in these countries, it's just a big pile of shit. This whole stuff that they learn, you know, I don't want that. The state is responsible for what my child learns. I want to take responsibility for what my child learns because I actually have something to teach. You know, my child doesn't have to know about all these terrible things and these wars that happen because I don't want my child to identify with this kind of stuff and think, wait, does that mean I'm a bad person now because Germans did all these bad things? It's completely stupid. You know, you want to raise your child in the here and now instead of keeping it trapped in the past and making it feel like, maybe you're a Nazi, right? Your grandfather did this. You know, your parents are responsible for the death of millions of people. Whoa, that's a lot of weight to put on a child. And that was the weight that was put onto me. And I was raised like I was an asshole. So I just said nothing anymore. I was just sitting quietly in a corner. So when I started with all that being creative, that was for me a way to say, you know, fuck all of your shit. You know, I want to be free. I want to say what I want to say. And I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say on a lot of things. You know, there's no end to it. Just have to look out the window once and there's my inspiration. Obese people walking by. Children with their phones walking by. You know, fathers that push their child in a, you know, kinder wagon with music on their ears. Or mothers having, you know, headsets in their ear and having, you know, talking or texting while pushing their child around. There's no real connection anymore between people these days. So yeah, sure, everybody's kind of selfish because what they have, they keep to themselves because they've actually got nothing to give. But they give it all the time. They give it to their TV, they give it to their phone, because love is attention. And when I have my child on my back while I'm doing the dishes and I feel my child, and that's, I would say, attention. Because, you know, I can feel somebody very close and still do something else. So I can still pay attention. You might call that multitasking. I do that all the time. I try to be in this place of love while I'm rendering images. While I'm here, I also have to hold myself up. I have to say, okay, don't get too angry now. Even though there's a lot of potential for anger, because a lot of children are treated like they're just being taken for granted. They're just being used as some kind of happy ball or something. Some people watch comedies and others make their children laugh. There's also no point to feel bad, if you've been like this until now, so what? Everybody can change. Yeah. So just to show you, I'm a man. And I made this myself. Oh yeah, good job. But I made it myself. So there's so many things that you can do. But you have to start somewhere. So don't try to change everything at once. Don't try to be the perfect parent. Take one step at a time. You take one project and then you're trying to realize that. If you've never done crochet, I find crochet fairly easy. Maybe knitting is to you, I don't know. And then you start. You just say, I'm gonna make something for myself. Or maybe you say, I'm gonna make, how do you call these? It's like it's like a round shape, right? And you can make that from crochet, and it's, you can pick up pots with it. Or put a pot on top of it. Yeah, so it's against the heat. These things, you can make them fairly easy. You can make them in a square, and you can even make them round. And what you will notice is that this hat is far from perfect. I don't need it to be perfect, but it's what wanted to come out. I like it. It's nice. I wanted it to be a bit tighter. I like the colors. But while I was making it, I thought, well, that's gonna look very terrible. But in the end, it looked really nice. Yeah. So it's not perfect. Not everything's even. And the experience I've had is that when you show these things to people, or you tell them that you're doing crochet, often they try to make that sound really stupid. Oh yeah, I've got better things to do than to do crochet. And then you show them what you did, and then they're actually jealous, and then they're trying to ruin it for you. It's like that line in the song from NF, where he says in the song, "Leave me alone." And he says that somebody contacted him and asked him how he was doing, and then he sent him the song. So NF sent that guy the song, and the song, it took him a while to respond. And then the guy who NF had sent the song to responds and says, "The song sucks." He was jealous. Or the song was actually expressing what he felt, only he couldn't express that. So he's still jealous. Or he hated the song because he didn't want to acknowledge that he felt the same way. Or he took it personal that the song said, "Leave me alone," right? You ask somebody, "How are you doing?" Well, the reason that you're asking him is because you're actually not doing very well. And then somebody sends you a song and that song says, "Leave me alone." It's like, well, the song sucks. That's kind of how it is. So what you have to realize is that people are very sensitive these days. And that's why I usually, if I'm with people, I try to not boast too much about all the things that I'm doing. Because if I'm just standing there and You know, I'm just trying to outshine them, and I'm trying to be like, you know, in your case, or in a parent's case, you know, my child is the best, it's super smart, and I'm the best mother, and blah, blah, blah. The best thing is to basically not talk about the raising of your child at all. The child should not be the center of your life suddenly. Because imagine, you know, we always have to get back to the way things would be if things would be natural. You would live in a tribe, your child would play, or you would spend time with your child, but you would also, you know, you would be busy making things. Like I said, there's no right? You are busy living your life because you have responsibilities. You have a responsibility for yourself, you have a responsibility for the community, and your child simply has to get big and strong until it can start pulling its own weight. That's all there is to it. That's what parents should realize. It's not their job to give the child everything it wants so that it's super happy, and then shower it with attention and love and all these things. No. The job of a parent is to bring the child up so that the child can pull its own weight. And that means the child has to also learn to depend on itself. So you're busy, you're an adult, you have to do things. You have to clean, you know, I'm just considering that you live in a house or an apartment. You know, the apartment should be clean. Food has to be there, you know, dishes, all these kind of things, you know, shopping. There's a lot of responsibility. So if you know, I literally say it like this, waste your day by trying to make your child happy because you think if your child isn't happy, then it's gonna have a hard time. Well, probably the children that grow up to be very strong are often children that suffered a lot. You know, I suffered because my needs were denied, you know. I had to learn that people won't give me what I really need. Because what I really needed was to be also left alone sometimes, so that I can learn to be strong by myself. But people always wanted to feel strong themselves by taking care of my needs. Or giving me sugar so they feel like they give me a treat. They treat me to something nice because they like sugar. But sugar is terrible. You just have to get that into your head. Sugar is really terrible. It makes you lazy, makes you really lazy, makes you really, really lazy. And so does your TV and your couch. So that's the best advice anyone can give you. Get rid of your TV, get rid of your couch, and make sure your phone is lying in a dark corner of your room most of the time. You know where my phone is? It's there. It's there. There's no internet running. I only turn on Wi-Fi when I need it right now. And the phone is in a little bag that I crocheted for it, so that it looks like a natural object. And so that using it would mean it's actually more effort. Which would mean that if I want to use this, I have to get it out. Plus, me having crocheted that is also creating some kind of filter for all this terrible radiation that these things send out. And it turns it more into something natural. So if you're one of these people that is constantly busy with their phone, yeah, no wonder you don't have any energy left. Because these things, they drain you, they suck you dry. And that's this kind of selfishness, why people are so selfish these days. Like I said, they just have nothing to give. And I think I've said enough now. I have just wrapped it up. I just wrapped it up.